Hey all, Rick here. The 26th century of Star Trek was dominated by a front of the temporal war, where the Sphere Builders attempted an insertion of their realm into the Prime timeline using powerful spheres. This culminated in the Battle of Procyon V, which I have a video covering separately. Opposing them, however, was Starfleet, led by the Universe-class Enterprise J and a fleet of Federation vessels. While that was the only ship native to the timeline we saw, other vessels in the background were blurry, reused assets. The game Star Trek Online featured several ships from this era designed in the same style as that futuristic Enterprise, drawing on similar technology, and this is one of those vessels, the Paladin class cruiser. The Paladin class was inspired by the Ranger class of the 23rd century in terms of mission profile and skeleton, but layered in technology from the 2550s. It was introduced into Star Trek Online for the Agents of Yesterday expansion, as that was going to feature the 26th century in a couple of missions, and the only ship we know from that era that was not a repeat was the Enterprise J. So designer Hector Ortiz and modeler Ian Richards added several original ships to the fleet to bulk it out. In terms of missions, the Paladin was built for combat and originally not designed for the time travel operations. Much like the ship on which it was based, the Paladin was expected to delve deep into distant areas to patrol and defend Federation colonies. Although it was to operate for extended periods away from support, the increased speeds of travel of the 26th century meant that such deep space-centric ships were less and less required. So the Paladin class had a wider operational area and frequently was expected to rendezvous with other ships in case of needed fleet action. Therefore, it was constructed to act as a leader and coordinator among fleet operations with greater care given to its tactical systems than other areas, while perfectly capable as a solo vessel. It had regenerative hull plating, which allowed the hull to replicate and repair itself on the fly. Subsystems of this included the ability to lock down areas suffering fires, burning, or some other such effect and rectify them. Additionally, when working effectively, it could store a portion of incoming energy damage and utilise that power for other systems. The hull, too, could turn translucent in places, allowing for a view of the skies. But this was not as expansive as other contemporary vessels. The Universe class, the only canon ship of the era, provides a lot of the known tech drawn from official, non-canonical sources. But I should also point out that the Universe was likely the most advanced ship of the fleet. The prototype for the Paladin was the NCV 88000, the USS Paladin, which launched sometime before 2554, and likely before the Enterprise J2. Eventually, the threat of the temporal Cold War turning hot caused Starfleet to pull the line in and overhaul it with the newest time travel capabilities, with the goal of expanding its missions to operate in different times too. As part of these conversions, the Paladin class received the molecular reconstruction system for its hull, based on the successful implementation on the Universe class, as well as a time drive to open temporal rifts. The molecular reconstruction allowed the ship to alter itself from internal systems to hull plating and EPS layouts into a variety of roles. The defensive mode increased shield efficiency, speed of adaptability, and focused on regenerative hull plating. However, diverting the system in this fashion lessened maximum flight speeds. The offensive configuration increased flight speed and improved maneuverability while reducing the focus on hull repair. The support role freed up auxiliary power, allowing for greater power generation to be utilised in a variety of other systems, drawing it from tactical systems primarily. There is more going on beneath the hood, as it were, than just reassigning power, as the ship literally remaps its innards to function in different ways thanks to the molecular reconstruction system. So when in one of these modes, it was more effective, essentially as if it had always been built for the role it was now undertaking. This adaptability was why it served so well, solo or as part of a team. In terms of warp drive, we don't know. It's safe to say it could cruise at factors of warp 9 and above, and considering that Starfleet was looking into extragalactic exploration, it likely had some form of transwarp. In the source material, it has quantum slipstream drive and access to a transwarp network. But so do many other ships, so that's hard to quantify. It did have greater manoeuvrability for its size at impulse speeds, drawn from the two engines towards the rear. It was armed with heavy dual phaser cannons and multi-role torpedo launchers, and featured a mission pod that could be swapped out for a variety of roles if required. There are several phaser points around the hull, but most seem to be hidden until required, with the exception of some turrets above and below on the more solid-looking hull armoured points. To me, this suggests that these dark areas with the glowing power running beneath them are the adaptable segments capable of forming or revealing weapons points where needed. The Paladin class also came with a heavy phaser assault platform, which was a deployable array of phaser turrets that fired before overloading itself and blowing up. This was to provide a diversion, additional support, or even be utilised as a tool. Considering it was redeployable, the Paladin class must have been capable of replicating a replacement over time. And considering it was expendable, it could fire well beyond safety margins. I guess hence the inevitable overload. The same molecular technology also led to the development of a deconstruction beam, which introduced molecular instability in whatever it struck, making the target more susceptible to other damaging effects or simply interrupting its own systems. Now, in the lore of Star Trek Online, the Paladin class was dispatched routinely from the 26th century to 2410 to deal with temporal incursions there, as this time also saw spillover from the temporal wars. And by this point, such time travel agencies were a known factor in Starfleet, so they could afford to literally rock up to the Federation and say, "Yo, we're you from the future, let us handle this mission or help out, but please respect the Temporal Prime Directive and thank you." So, that's the Paladin class. Originally designed as a combat ship made to coordinate vessels where needed, but handle situations on its own, it forfeited exploration potential for defensive actions and adaptability in warfare situations. When the time travel fronts became more pressing, the ship was overhauled to continue the same mission profile, just now at various points throughout time, often in unsubtle ways, relying on the mutual respect of its own past organisations to aid it. In this way, Paladin seems like an apt name choice for the class. Thanks for watching this breakdown of the temporal cruiser of the 2550s. I've been Rick, and until the next one, goodbye.